Well, hello, everyone. I'm Matt O'Neill, and I'm here at Voyeur Nightclub with Miss Sharon Needles. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very good. Welcome back.
Thank you. I love being back in my home state of Transylvania. Philadelphia is my second favorite city here in Transylvania. Of course, Pittsburgh being my first.
Everyone loves Pittsburgh. So you are here actually to perform on your album that you released, correct?
Yes, I think I'm doing 5 or 6 songs off of PG-13, and I've been touring all over the world with my album, and it's a pop electronic focused album. But with three or four of the songs tonight, we're stripping them down and turning them into piano ballads. So it's stripping down the pop elements and all the bass and the electronics, and it's just me and the piano. I'd like to apologize to the audience in advance.
No, what was your inspiration for this album?
Fame. I've always wanted fame, and I wanted every last taste of it. So after being on RuPaul's Drag Race, I crossed off being on television. Then I moved on to modeling, being the face of Out Magazine. I was a spokesperson for PETA. I did a play during the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And then I wanted my motherfucking pop album. So the reason it's called PG-13 is because as a child, I was never influenced by pop music. But to be relevant in this industry, I knew I had to make a pop album. So it's if PG is the pop world and R is Sharon Needles, and then we came together in a compromise. So it's a very eclectic, bizarre, weird pop album. Eat your heart out, Lady Gaga.
So speaking of fame, you've actually worked with a lot of different people with this album, and they're in your songs. Can you talk about some of the people that you've sung with?
Well, yeah. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with stars and idols, and the great thing about me is my idols weren't Cher or Lady Gaga or Nicki Minaj. My stars were pretty tangible underground stars. So they not only was I so happy to have them on my album, they were very happy to work with me. But I work with, of course, RuPaul did the intro for This Club is a Haunted House. I still have no idea how we pulled that one off. We worked with Armin Ra, the world's most renowned theremin player. And if you don't know what that instrument is, kids, I suggest you look it up. We worked with animatronics from the Scissor Sisters, along with Alaska Thunderfuck on Kai Kai. I worked with one of my most inspirational people on the planet, Jane County, who sadly I think is forgotten by the gay youth, but was the first transsexual of punk rock in the CBGB.
So Anime Change on Facebook said, how much of RuPaul's Drag Race was actually scripted, and were there any queens that were depicted differently in editing that kind of maybe seemed a little more bitchy or, nicer in a way?
All reality television is scripted, whether it's The Bachelor, where you're being filmed having an intimate date with a camera crew, or a Survivor, where you're trying to act like you're really roughing it while obviously you're surrounded by a camera crew. There is, however, one reality show that is not scripted, and that show is called RuPaul's Drag Race. You do not need a fucking storyboard or a script. You take 13 drag queens, which are really dented cans, men who dress up like female clowns. There is so much backstory, distress, and triumph in us that there's no need for story. I will say that RuPaul's Drag Race is like a prison. Some people can be one way in freedom, and then once they're confined, it brings out a psychological id in themselves that they never realized. I never wanted to be a champion against anti-bullying. I never wanted to ever be considered an underdog. Lock me up in a hamster cage full of 12 other egomaniacs, and that's what came out of me. And I think the same thing is with Fifi. Fifi, outside of Drag Race, is a very, very sweet and shy person. But I think if she went to prison, she'd shank a bitch.
Well, if you lock me up with 12 other people, there's going to be definitely something else that's coming out of me.
Well, that would be semen.
So Hernan Giraldo also asked, how's your opinion about drag overall changed since you won the show?
It hasn't. I still to this day, I still don't really consider myself a drag queen. I consider myself a drag queen impersonator. I'm so enamored and fascinated by drag queens that's why I started doing drag, so I could be around them and hang out with them. And fame doesn't, I mean, a lot of people look at the girls of RuPaul's Drag Race to be, the 13 most talented, beautiful girls of the year, but it's really not true. We're just the 13 most luckiest drag queens in the world, and we're all the same, whether you're camp, fish, pageant, comedy, or terrifying. We really are just social commentary on sexuality, freedom, and visual terrorism.
So we all know you are dating Alaska. Since you both have appeared on the show, Tricky Naughty on Twitter asked, how's your relationship with her changed since you have both appeared?
I guess it's changed that we're both much more successful professionally, but unfortunately spend a lot less time with each other personally. But there's a lot of perks to not being able to see your partners often. Sex is better. You bust a better nut when you haven't fucked in a couple weeks.
We all know that. So then your final question actually comes from a drag queen, Mary D. Knight. She wants to know,
Mary D. Knight. Very clever.
do you think that you will marry Alaska down the road?
No. Marriage is the glue, is the love glue that is bonded by a government I don't trust and a God I don't believe in. And I don't have to fucking prove the way I feel for Alaska in front of God, the government, or even fucking reality television.
Well, there you have it. This is Sharon Needles. She has to go perform, and I have to go be a big fangirl. So until next time, I'm Matt O'Neill. This is Sharon Needles.
Hail Satan.
Take it easy, guys.